The concept of living in a simulated reality has captivated philosophers, scientists, and thinkers for centuries. From the moment humans began to contemplate the nature of existence, we have been asking ourselves profound questions. What is reality? How do we know that what we see, feel, and experience is real? These questions have deep roots in philosophy, but the simulation hypothesis, the theory that our reality is a computer-generated simulation, has taken these age-old queries to new heights in the modern era. This idea, popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom and explored in works of fiction such as The Matrix, suggests that everything we know, from the stars in the sky to the ground beneath our feet, could be part of a vast, artificial construct. The simulation hypothesis proposes that at some point in the future, an advanced civilization will have the technological capability to create hyperrealistic simulations of entire worlds, and the inhabitants of these simulations would be unaware of their artificial nature. According to this theory, our universe could be one such simulation. If we are living in a simulation, it raises profound philosophical and existential questions. Are we merely characters in a game controlled by an external entity? If our world is an illusion, what does that mean for our free will, our sense of self, and our place in the universe? As we delve deeper into the idea of living in a simulation, we will explore the origins of the simulation hypothesis, examine its implications on the nature of reality, and discuss whether or not it is possible for us to break free from the matrix that holds us captive. The birth of the simulation hypothesis. The idea that our reality could be a simulation is not a modern invention. Philosophers have speculated about the nature of reality for millennia, with thinkers like Plato and Descartes questioning the distinction between reality and illusion. Plato's allegory of the cave, for instance, explored the idea that humans may be trapped in a false reality, perceiving only shadows on the wall and believing them to be the truth. While Plato did not suggest that our world was a simulation, he did acknowledge the possibility that our perception of reality could be deceptive. The modern simulation hypothesis as we know it today was first popularized in the early 2000s by philosopher Nick Bostrom. In his 2003 paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Bostrom proposed that at least one of the following statements is true. 1. Human civilization will go extinct before reaching a post-human stage capable of creating realistic simulations. 2. Post-human civilizations are uninterested in creating simulations of their ancestors. 3. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. Bostrom's argument is based on the assumption that advanced civilizations would have the computing power to simulate entire universes, including conscious beings. If such civilizations exist, it would be highly probable that they would create many simulations of their ancestors or of entirely new realities. Given this likelihood, the odds of us living in the base reality, the original, non-simulated world, are low, according to Bostrom's reasoning. The idea that we are part of a simulation, then, becomes a statistical inevitability. Scientific evidence for the simulation hypothesis. While the simulation hypothesis remains largely philosophical, there is growing interest in exploring it through scientific and empirical methods. Some of the most compelling evidence for the simulation hypothesis comes from the field of quantum mechanics, which deals with the behavior of subatomic particles. Quantum phenomena often seem to defy the logic of classical physics, with particles behaving in ways that suggest they are not fully real until observed. The phenomenon known as wave-particle duality, in which particles appear to be both waves and particles depending on how they are measured, has led some theorists to suggest that our universe may operate like a simulation, rendering only the parts of reality we observe. In 2012, physicists Silas Bean and Zohar Ringel proposed a new model in which they suggested that the universe itself could be a lattice-like structure at the quantum level, similar to a computer grid. If our universe is composed of a finite set of pixels, or quantum bits, it could be a sign that we live in a computational structure. This theory has not been proven, but it presents a compelling argument for the simulation hypothesis by suggesting that the fundamental building blocks of our universe could be discrete, like pixels in a digital image. Additionally, the study of fine-tuning in physics, the fact that the constants of nature seem to be precisely calibrated to allow life to exist, raises questions about the design of the universe. Some proponents of the simulation hypothesis argue that this fine-tuning is evidence of a simulation's creators carefully programming the laws of nature to support life. If the constants were even slightly different, life as we know it would not be possible. The precise calibration of these constants may be a sign of intelligent design, possibly from a highly advanced civilization running the simulation. Opposing views and criticisms. Despite its growing popularity, the simulation hypothesis has been met with criticism from many scientists, philosophers, and thinkers. One of the most prominent critics is David Chalmers, a philosopher known for his work on consciousness and the philosophy of mind. Chalmers argues that the simulation hypothesis, while intriguing, does not provide any new insights into the nature of consciousness. For Chalmers, the fundamental question is not whether we live in a simulation, but how consciousness arises in the first place. He believes that we should focus more on understanding the nature of subjective experience rather than speculating on the origins of reality. Other critics argue that the simulation hypothesis is ultimately untestable and, therefore, not a useful scientific theory. Since there is no direct evidence that we live in a simulation, and no clear way to test the hypothesis, some philosophers consider it to be a form of speculative metaphysics rather than a scientifically viable theory. Karl Popper, a famous philosopher of science, argued that any theory that cannot be falsified, that is, proven false through evidence, should not be considered scientific. There are also ethical and existential concerns related to the simulation hypothesis. If we are living in a simulation, what does it mean for our sense of identity and free will? Are our thoughts and actions predetermined by the creators of the simulation, or do we have the power to shape our own reality? These are questions that have been explored in both philosophy and science fiction, but they remain unresolved. Philosophical implications of the simulation hypothesis. The idea that we may be living in a simulation raises profound questions about the nature of reality and consciousness. If our universe is a simulation, then what does that say about the nature of the mind and the self? René Descartes, the French philosopher famous for his statement, cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, argued that the only thing we can be sure of is our own existence as thinking beings. If we are living in a simulation, this would mean that our thoughts and consciousness are being generated by the simulation's code. But does this diminish the authenticity of our experiences? Some philosophers argue that even if we live in a simulated reality, our experiences and our consciousness are still meaningful. According to existentialism, the meaning of life is created through our experiences, regardless of whether those experiences are real or simulated. As long as we experience the world as real, our thoughts, emotions, and actions have significance. Others, however, argue that the concept of a simulated reality undermines the very idea of free will. If our actions are predetermined by the simulation's code, then how can we be truly free? Are we just following a script, like characters in a video game? The future of the simulation hypothesis. As technology advances, the possibility of creating realistic simulations grows ever more plausible. In the coming decades, we may see the development of virtual realities that are indistinguishable from the real world, blurring the lines between simulation and reality. But as we approach the creation of these advanced simulations, we are left with important questions about the ethics of such technology. If future civilizations are able to create simulations of entire universes, what are the ethical implications? Would it be morally acceptable to create sentient beings within these simulations, knowing that they may be unaware of their artificial nature? And if we were to create such simulations ourselves, would we be bound by the same ethical concerns? As we continue to develop artificial intelligence and virtual realities, we may find that we are not only advancing towards the creation of simulations but also moving closer to answering some of the deepest questions about the nature of our own existence. The simulation hypothesis challenges everything we know about reality. If we are living in a simulation, it could radically change our understanding of life, the universe, and our place in it. While the theory remains speculative, it raises important philosophical, scientific, and ethical questions that we can no longer ignore. Whether we are living in a simulated world or not, the quest for knowledge and truth remains one of the defining characteristics of humanity. The search for meaning, understanding, and freedom is what drives us forward, no matter what reality we may inhabit. Thank you for joining us on this thought-provoking journey. If you enjoyed this exploration of the simulation hypothesis, please like and subscribe to stay updated with more intriguing content.